So hi, good evening, gentlemen, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, this panel, right from, I guess, chai and sutta to burgers and pizzas and donuts, waffles, I think we have it all. So this session is more about delving into the minds of all these stalwarts, understanding their operations, their business, and their thinking, which has made them scale their businesses so far. So let's get right into it. I think my first question is very simple. While planning your expansion, as you look at, expanding and scaling your businesses, what are really the thoughts in your head? How do you really go about expanding your chain? How do you really go about planning कि मुझे यहाँ store खोलना है, वहाँ store खोलना है? Should I get into smaller towns? Should I, just scale up my business multiple times? What are some of those factors that you keep in your mind? And what are some of the concerns that you have? So, anyone would, who would like to take a lead?
Okay, I'll take this because we just debuted the brand last year. We were just waiting for the. We were just waiting for the COVID to settle down, and we used the COVID as an opportunity and strategize when to launch the brand. So that's how we launched the brand last year at Bangalore. So as you asked the question, should we launch in 3 tiers? Should we launch in 2 tiers? Should we launch in 1 tier? We thought first let's look for whether the brand will be acceptable at a metro, where there is a cosmopolitan crowd and where all types of verticals can be made. So hence we launched the brand at Bangalore. And when we launched the brand, we started thinking about should we do it high street, should we do it mall, should we do it airport? And that's how we covered all the verticals to show to the to check whether the customers are accepting it or not. As you all know, GoPizza, it's a South Korean company, and our pizza is an oval-shaped pizza. Though that itself was a shock to me itself, because oval-shaped pizza and whether customers will accept or not. So first we were looking at whether the concept, whether the product will be accepted, then the model will be accepted, then the vertical will be accepted. Then we thought of then we'll scale it up to the next city. So that's how we, from Bangalore, then we moved to Hyderabad, then we moved to Chennai, and then now we are moving to highways also. So when we covered all the verticals, the first and foremost thing is, it's not that we open one in Delhi, one in Mumbai, one in Bangalore. We should start in a city because the logistic cost plays a major role in this thing. If the logistic cost and the back-end cost is taken care, then you can expand. The model has to be scalable. The model has to be profitable. So, and this is what was proved in Bangalore and Hyderabad and Chennai. And then now we'll be entering to the West market and North market.
Can't hear you, Tarak.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, this works. So, Mohit sir, the first question you asked that why do you want to open stores? I had to make a lot of money, I think. That is a starting point.
Of course.
So I think for us also at Madova Donuts, I think what we have done is basically to make ourselves as a category leader to start with. I think that is what it is, because there was nobody in this category specifically. And to make the donut category from a niche segment to a staple segment was our whole idea. And that is how we have been looking around to open more stores in the cities where we are not existing. For example, we are not existing in the metro cities as of now. So we want to expand there first and then maybe go into the B cities. That's what the plan is.
Okay.
So for us at Chayos, it has been a pretty interesting journey. I would say कि it's not a playbook that gets developed on the day one, right? आपको जाके you open a store, you see the customer response to it. But one very conscious call that we took from the day one itself was that we want to work on a high frequency, high density network. We are a chai use case, right? So if we are in Gurgaon, we wanted to open most of our stores in Gurgaon first. So that same customer who's consuming in office will also end up consuming in their favorite mall, will end up consuming in their favorite high street location. And so far we are 210 stores, but only 7 cities. And I would say 85% of those stores are in 3 cities itself. So taking a very concentrated high network effect approach. That's what's worked well for us.
So, right from, let's say, an approach which concentrates a lot of stores into a few cities to expanding wide and to, Tarak's point that I will go wherever there is money. Let me get to somebody like Ankit, who's possibly into, 150 cities, Ankit? So how do you think about this issue of expanding into newer cities and newer towns? How do you go about it?
So, hello.
Guys, the mic is not working.
The red button needs to be on or?
It needs to be on.
Okay. So, honestly speaking, we again started with very humble beginnings, tested the model, started with Bombay. However, I think to scale a food business, what you really need to think through is a whole lot of aspects, right from your supply chain to your back-end planning to your unit economics to, thinking about what the store format needs to be and then not deviating from your core. So today, frankly, we are present in 150 cities. But a lot of work in the first 3 years actually went in perfecting the business model and getting the unit economics right. Because if you have the right unit economics and the right model, then, it's just a cookie cutter approach, a cut, copy, paste, and that's exactly what has worked for us. So we've not really tried to reinvent the wheel where, today if you go to a Guwahati, you'll find a store which is very different from a store which is in Bombay, both in terms of size, in terms of format, in terms of look and feel, or in terms of product. So it's very important to think through those basics of the business and then have a cookie cutter templatized approach which is just going to be replicated across all cities. If you perfect that and if you perfect your back-end and supply chain, then 150 cities what? Mohit sir is present in 250 cities and we can actually get to 500 cities also. But it's about getting those basics right. I think that is actually the most important aspect of that one needs to focus on.
I think it's a fantastic point, the unit economics of the store. I mean, that's what we all swear by, in our industry. Dhiren ji, would you think of it differently? I mean, your business is a little different from everybody else's.
True. So I think among all the retail brands here, we are more as a product that goes and sells in the supermarkets or on the retail side. So we are in the business of frozen doughs that retailers or customers buy off the retail shelves, and they can process it at using their own creativity, which of course we try to influence as well. Now it's interesting where our biggest markets are. You'll be surprised. It's really the core markets are places like Kerala, Gujarat, East. Samosa skins are one of our bigger products. Spring roll sheets are one of our bigger products. Parathas. And these are places where we see that there's a large
Sales
consumption of these products. So that's where they get done.
Sure.
So do we choose? Is samosa not available in other places? The variations come in. So you're now playing on those regional influences that make slight changes to the product as we go around the country. It's such a core product, such a basic product, and there's so much differentiation.
But you're kind of innovating, kind of tweaking the recipe maybe a little as you are going deeper.
So innovation is what is
Sure.
the key to our success
I think
ahead.
two great points so far, and I'm going to touch upon these as I come back. But before we go on to the next question, I want to also hear from some of our other panelists. Anubhav.
So, मैं तारक सर के साथ में ही जाना चाहूँगा जहाँ पे पैसा होगा वहाँ पे स्टोर खोलेंगे.
Absolutely.
Obviously आप जब धंधा करते हो तो सारी चीज़ें आप खुद ही पढ़ते हो कि वहाँ पे लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट क्या आएगा, आपका इंफ्रा कॉस्ट कितना आएगा, वहाँ पे आपका टीजी है कि नहीं है, और अगर ये सारी चीज़ें हैं तो फिर खोलेंगे. और जैसा देश वैसा भेस, वी हैव टू एक्ट अकॉर्डिंग टू मार्केट. So market is bound to fluctuate and we have to act according to market. That is what businessmen do.
पर मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि जब हम जैसे उन्होंने बताया यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स के बारे में, तो अगर मुझे स्टोर खोलना है मुंबई में और मेरा इन्वेस्टमेंट मान लीजिए 20 लाख का है, मैं क्या सेम 20 लाख का इन्वेस्टमेंट एक छोटे टाउन में भी करूँगा कि नहीं करूँगा? या मैं अगर छोटे टाउन में जा रहा हूँ तो अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट थोड़ा कम कर दूँ? आपका क्या अप्रोच रहेगा अगर आप अपने बिजनेस को देखते हैं? व्हाट विल बी योर अप्रोच? इन्वेस्टमेंट
तो हमेशा ही कम ही करवाना है सर. ROI जल्दी होगा क्योंकि हम लोग फ्रेंचाइजी बेचते हैं. तो लेकिन मेट्रोज़ में ज़्यादा पैसा लग जाता है. डिपॉजिट ज़्यादा लगता है, हर चीज़ की पैसा ज़्यादा ही लगता है, लेकिन हम लोग कोशिश करते हैं कम से कम रहे। रेंटल हम लोग रेंटल साइड कम रखें, हम लोग मार्केट एरिया में नहीं जाएँ, हम लोग खुद का एक मार्केट प्लेस का बनाएं, ऐसी जगह पे ले जहाँ पे लोग एक्सपोजर नहीं है, हम लोग खुद मार्केटिंग करके वहाँ पे लोगों को लेके आ जाएंगे. सो वी वर्क लाइक दैट इन दिस.
Right. Biraja?
I strongly believe as a retailer, we are solving two purposes. Either we are creating demand or else we are fulfilling the created...
Keep it closer.
Yeah. Either we are creating demand or else we are fulfilling the existing demand. So at Biggies Burger, let's say as a specialty burger brand, for tier 1 markets where Burger King, KFC or McDonald's are already there from ages together, we adopt what is being created, what the consumer is being consuming from a long period of time, and we try to justify the demand gap over there.
Yeah.
But for T2, T3 cities where the bigger players are not there, that's an opportunity for us. And we have the whole field over there to play around. So our menu has slight tweaking. The business model gets minutely tweaked without the back-end impact, only as a periphery impact over there. And I believe T2, T3 market will take a different strategy of creating the demand, because they have never tried a grilled burger or they have never tried a specialty burger. They're still confused between what is a vada pav and what is a burger. So my take on this is clearly that markets wherever we have to create a demand, we have to play very differently. And market wherever we are fulfilling the demand, or wherever the demand is already there and we are taking a share of it, it has to be back-end integrated. You have to see as a city prospect or as a cluster prospect and do the mathematics right, so that within 18 to 20 months, there should be a timeline on when you'll be breaking even or you'll be doing profit.
Sure. Very, very, very interesting points. Mahesh, would you like to say something? You've already done. Okay. Prashant?
Hello. So for us as Cancro, we are basically the first of its kind in the Asian market. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a market for us where there is none. And the product name itself, that's the first hitch that we are falling in. I mean, when I say I'm representing Cancro deuterium depleted drink, the first question that pops up in anyone's mind is what's deuterium? So we go into explaining it, and the education part is what we are trying to focus more on, trying to figure out the market.
Sure. So it's about educating the market and creating demand,
Creating the demand.
As our friend just mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. This brings me to my second question. So one of the big questions, especially as you go into smaller towns, etc., is about value for experience or value for money. What is this, what do you understand by experience in the context of your business? And so what really is meant by experience? Experience can mean different things to different people. So what are you aiming for in your business? And is that really a criteria? Anyone?
So experience and money. So our first outlet, we opened it near to the girls hostel. So just कि अगर हम लोग girls crowd attract करेंगे तो boys का अपने आप आ जाएगा. So it is the experience for boys के, and and price point. So क्योंकि it is affordable, our TG students, so it has to be affordable so that we can compete with the Reddy and the other thela walas. So both we have to keep in the mind, the experience and the price.
Sure.
So it's a very interesting question, because a lot of times brands really tear themselves up on value for experience, value for money. My honest opinion is that both can go hand in hand. You need to first, before you embark on this thought process, you need to first understand what your TG is and what's their propensity to spend. Once you have got that clarity, you can actually design your stores and design your products in a certain way which can actually appeal to that target group. So for example, if you look at our waffle stores at Belgian Waffle Co., they do have a certain premium kind of feeling, but the pricing is definitely not premium. So we like to focus on premium yet affordable, because we understand that our TG is anywhere between the 15 years to the 30-year-olds. The kids will normally come with their parents and get them to the store. So you know, for us doing a 1,000 square feet, 1,500 square feet store, seating a big sit-out kind of a store with an average per customer billing, which is like say roughly 250, 300 bucks, would just be a deathbed. You know, it just be, we would be digging ourselves and it would be like putting ourselves in the grave. So you have to actually think through this from a target audience standpoint and what value proposition you want to give at what price point. So today, for example, like I said, you know, you go to our stores in Bombay, you go to our stores even in Dimapur and Nagaland, you will just find that all the stores look the same. The experience is very much the same because the TG pan-India is more or less the same. And so we speak the same language irrespective of the city, whether it's a tier 1 or a tier 2 or a tier 3.
So I think you are emphasizing more on standardization of the experience.
Yes.
It's not about the ambience or stuff like that. It's not about the store size. It's more about product, perhaps.
It's about product and it's about standardization, as you rightly said, keeping in mind the fact that your TG is not going to change from one city to another. So whether you're in a tier 1 or a tier 2 or a tier 3, your TG is more or less going to remain the same because your product basket is the same. So keeping that in mind, you need to actually think through your business format and ensure that you're probably offering the right product at the right price point and at the right experience, which is in line with your target audience.
So no matter whether you're in Dimapur or Delhi, it would be pretty much the same.
Yes.
Got it. Raghav?
Yeah, so we started Chayos about 10 years back. And over these 10 years, we've seen the country evolve. I have seen the country evolve from the kind of disposable income that the middle class has, the growth of the middle class. There is an alpha quotient. People are proud of being Indian. People are proud of consuming Indian products. And that is going to be the story of the next 20, 30 years to come. So when we talk about value for experience, people want to be associated with aspirational brands. And people are now proud to be having a kullad chai or an adrak chai and you know, not just saying ki mujhe to cappuccino hi pini hai. And that is where we bring in that, you know, chai is not just chai. You know, before a lot of us came in, it was like chai to chai hi hai, right? Ghar pe peete ho aap. Aapko bahar jaake coffee pini hai. Coffee is cool. But we've brought in that, you know, we are Indian, we love our chai, we want to have our chai 3 times in a day, and we will give you that same chai in the best experience format, with the best food, the food that you understand. We will make that chai freshly for you. And I think that aspiration, that confidence in being Indian, that is something that is going to define a lot of Indian brands for many years to come.
Sure.
So, Mohit, if I can share something a little different. So, we have a ready-to-cook brand. Our focus is mainly housewives who would buy this product and cook for their families. Could be on a day-to-day basis, sometimes on special occasions, but specifically we have a large market which also makes this for Ramzan. And samosa and Ramzan really go together very closely. Our focus on the experience is termed as Go Create.
I'm sorry.
Go Create.
Okay.
And Go Create influences the housewife to find newer ways of using the product,
Differently and
making traditional
uniquely,
products, but in a newer way. How to innovate yet for the younger generation while keeping the traditions of that festival alive. So that's what we are trying to do with our campaign there, and that's the experience that people get by using our products.
Very, very interesting again. And quite consistent with your earlier view of, you know, innovating and moving forward in that sense.
Absolutely. So there is no end to where people can take this product, but it's also tied to that tradition.
Sure.
While giving them that freedom to innovate and grow it in different ways.
Right.
I believe value, both has to go parallelly together. And again, it depends on the brand, how it has to. Now, for example, again, it depends on which country to country. As a pizza brand at Singapore, you will be surprised. We have an outlet at a square feet of less than even 100 square feet. And in India, we are able to open it from 100 square feet to 2,000 square feet outlet. Now, the customers have a different experience for a 100 square feet outlet and for a dine-in outlet point of it. Now, here what it plays major role is a value for money. For us, at least in India, what we thought, the pizza costs less than even $1. And that's how the bill cuts are very high. And we see, our vision and mission also matches to that it's pizza for one and pizza for everyone. And in the COVID, we thought, let it be a personalized pizza. Pizza should not be shared. Pizza should be eaten by one person. And that's how the shape and size was made. Now, when the shape size is made, now the India, we have to expand across. If we do not get the innovation in place, then people will not be coming repeatedly. So that's how we started the AI technology. We started the robotic, which gets the consistency across everywhere. And it brings a new technology wise where we will be having a challenge of front end and the labors, which will be taken, which will ensure irrespective of whether you prepare pizza at Jammu or at Kanyakumari, the pizza is same. So that is also an experience point of it. So experience is, first if the experience is defined by the format, by the company, whether then the value can be defined. For example, there was a time in the malls, McDonald's and KFCs were at the atrium of the malls. Now you'll see they're at the food courts of the malls, not at the atrium of the malls. So the experience of the McDonald's or the QSR has changed. What is QSR, quick service restaurant? Then the value has been defined of the price or the experience point of it. So it again depending on the companies and the countries and the models, what has to be the focus point, but it has to go parallelly. But if the value for money is not there, then the experience will not be treated properly.
Sure. You know, I look at it perhaps slightly differently, in the sense that when competition is intense, let's say especially in the larger cities, we tend to do a little bit more in our outlets. So maybe there's a little bit more retail theater, as we call it. I mean, not this retail theater, but yeah, a little bit of more drama, a little bit of more, it's like how there are live kitchens in five-star hotels and stuff like that. You do perhaps a little bit more because the competition is very intense and you need to differentiate your brand from, let's say, other brands which may be operating in the same space. You perhaps may not do that in a smaller city store. I mean, how do you guys look at it?
Especially, as you all know, due to COVID, K-pop, everybody started watching the K-pops and everybody know BTS, they're the brand ambassadors. So we utilize that as our brand ambassador in Korea. And as a Korean company, we started playing BTS songs. And like Chai Sutra said, we opened near the girls' college. The girls' college, they were sitting in the outlet, listening to the song, not going to the college. That was a different experience. But the principal came and told, you'll have to really stop this BTS song.
That's the one idea I'm taking back to my team. So.
When I joined, I was not actually aware of the BTS because we are from Michael Jackson and Bryan Adams era. When I speak to my kids, my son, he said, you don't know BTS. And when I go to Korea and come back, he tell you should know about BTS, how, and they really sleep with those songs. And that's how the fashion technologies and the experience plays a role.
Sure. Tarak, any view that you would have, how are you differentiating your stores? I mean, since you operate largely in the, in the top 6-7 cities, how do you look at this entire issue of experience?
So for us, we are a retail theater concept. Can you hear? Yeah. So we are a retail theater concept. You can actually, at our kitchen stores, so we have a hub and spoke model where we call the hub as the mother kitchen, where we actually make the donut in front of you. It's a retail theater where you can actually see how a dough gets into a donut form. And then we distribute to the various stores in the cities where you actually finish it. So basically in front of you, the retail theater continues where you can actually see your topping of the donuts happen and it is then served freshly gourmet up to you. So I think that continues for us as a concept.
But let's say if you were to, take this concept into smaller cities, but the pressure is to have, let's say, lower capex. The point that Anubhav said, that capex jitna kam ho, utna acha hai. So if you were to take it into a smaller city where, let's say, demand is uncertain, so what would you do differently?
So for ours, the ethos is very clear that we serve our donuts in front of you. We top your donuts in front of you. In fact, we also have the concept where people can actually come and top your donuts yourself, whatever you want, and so that'll do it yourself kind of thing. So that will continue, whether it is A city, B city, or wherever we go. So the ethos still continues.
Sure. Great. Anybody else has a point that you would like to make?
So as a specialty burger brand, we experience 70% of our sales through the stores. We experience most of our consumer enjoy the burger when it is prepared within 5 minutes of time and not being packed. So the demand of the consumer or the whole dynamics of the product is designed in such a way that we as a brand are incomplete without giving a right experience associated with the product. So when we are talking about grilled burgers, it has to be earthy, it has to be very raw. I believe in our concept, product and experience plays a very vital role. And the parameters to set what is value or what is experience are too dynamic. As Raghav mentioned, he has seen like in the last 10 years, India has evolved. The same way, it's all about the purchase power parity or disposable income, and this keeps on changing. So today, 10 years back, Coffee Day was non-affordable by a lot of people, but today it has become a much value brand when Starbucks or other brands entered. So we have to be too agile, and we have to be, as QSR leaders, we have to be adopting to the requirement of the specific demographic, because India is though it's a single country, but it is a country of countries. So we have to take quicker steps to adopt to the requirement as per the demographic. As per me, value, may it be value or may it be experience, the parameters are too dynamic, and as a burger brand, both are very, very crucial to us.
Sure. The coming to the all-important point, value for money, and we all know that value for money is important. That's what we've heard right from the times that we've been growing up, I guess. We kind of naturally tend to assume that, when you go into smaller cities, we need to have our brands show more value for money. Is that really true? I mean, do you really think that in small towns, your brands need to reflect more value for money?
So, honestly, we've thought through this many times, and we've even thought about differential pricing, thinking that maybe in smaller towns should we price our products differently, because we are a completely homegrown Indian brand. We have all the flexibility of doing that. But somewhere we feel that we take a lot of cues from global MNCs which have scaled and shown us how to do QSR business at scale. And, if you look at a McDonald's, Domino's, or any of these franchisees which are global franchisees, what we've seen is that there's uniformity of product offering, uniformity of store concept, and more often than not, they follow uniformity of pricing. And one of the reasons is that to actually create brands over a period of time, it's very important for brands to be etched in people's memories. And I think that happens when there is just uniformity and consistency. So the way we look at tier 2, tier 3 towns, because, we have presence in 150 cities, what we normally focus on is how is it that we are going to augment the sales of that city, or how is it that we are going to work towards augmenting the sales of that outlet. Because if we can actually focus on the revenue part, given the overheads more often than not would be a little on the lower side, typically the ROIs and the payback periods would just work out. So we channelize our energies at a brand level more in terms of thinking about how do we focus on revenue rather than cost optimization. And as long as we are doing that, we are confident that that model will work, and we don't really need to make too many tweaks.
Super.
I feel any brand to expand, and that too in India, size of the model and the price of the model has to be defined. Size of the model, because if, for example, I give example of Tim Horton. If Tim Horton has to open 10,000 outlets, how many years it will take? But if the size of the model is defined by the Tim Horton that they can open in 1,000 square feet or 2,000 square feet, or for example, Amritsar, they just opened, it was, if I'm not wrong, it's 3,000 square feet. The same competitor, if I'm not wrong, Coffee Day, they had 10 outlets which are of 500 square feet each. So the size of the model has to be defined if they have to expand. And the second comes to the pricing of it. Now the pricing, if like you rightly said, 2-tier, 3-tier, it has to be same. I believe instead of city, it has to be vertical, and the model has to be designed. For example, the price at a college or a school cannot be the same price of a PVR or at a same of the mall price. The price at a corporate cannot be same price at high street. If you wanted a repeated customers over there, because still we carry our dabba, still we eat homely food, still if you want to go and out and eat out other food, the price has to be
But
different.
since you don't carry donuts and waffles in your dabba, that's why, perhaps they have the point of view that they have.
Fair point, but if you require repeated customers and you want again and again them to do along with the experience, and it has to be affordable, the price has to be a different strategy for every company.
Sure.
So, Mohit, as we were discussing earlier, our product sells from premium food outlets in larger cities, Nature's Basket and others, to the villages in some of these states. The value that people derive from exactly the same product is very different. And that's the challenge, to address the different consumer with exactly the same product. So we know that in the smaller towns, the consumer would count the number of sheets in that packet because they want the exact number of samosas or spring rolls coming out of that packet. Whereas in the larger towns, it's more about creativity, it's more about what more can you how can I do this differently, and will this taste the best? How can you make this taste better? So different experiences in value and
Again,
different values.
super point. It's more about pushing your marketing teams to work harder and to position the same thing a little differently and to queue, I guess, different benefits.
Yeah, I would just want to take one shot at this question. We are currently not in tier 2, tier 3 cities. We are only in 7 cities. But I think our industry has an obsession with number of stores. And I think a lot of people are here for that reason. But I think that is not necessarily the only metric that a business needs to look at. You can have one 7,000 square foot store, or you can have 7,000 square foot stores, or you can have 70, 100 square foot stores. Ultimately, it's about the business model, right? If Delhi has a population of 2.5, 3 crore people, how many of them are relevant to your business? How many times in a year do you want them to transact? How much money do you want them to spend each time they transact with you? How much profit are you going to make each time they make a transaction? It's ultimately about that. And having that clarity from day one is very important, because you can be a business for 10 lakh people in Delhi NCR, you can be a business for 1 crore people in Delhi NCR, you can be a business for 1,000 people in Delhi NCR, and you can still make a really, really good business out of it.
Sure.
So for us, we are a completely D2C brand since the last 6 months. And surprisingly, about 70% of our business is actually coming in from tier 3 and tier 4 cities. So
And this is online that you're mentioning?
this is completely online, which is very surprising for us because we were actually least expecting tier 3 also. Forget about tier 4. So I feel the value aspect, as everybody is mentioning, I feel it's more to the perspective part, what you perceive as a value. Somebody may perceive it as a lower value, or somebody may perceive it as a higher value.
But you stay consistent with your
we stay consistent with our proposition.
Super. Very nice. I guess the challenge, Raghav, to answer your point, it's more about, when you talk about positioning your business as a value for money business, the challenge is more on the profitability side. How profitable is your business? What are your metrics and what are your aspirations for profitability, etc., etc. And therefore, some of the actions tend to flow, I would imagine. Would you price your products differently? I mean, for instance, if
a
Ankit
contrary example to that is DMart.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
The cheapest,
absolutely.
yet most profitable retail business and the highest valued. So it's a function of the product and the model eventually.
Sure. So is that how you would look at your business? I mean, your aspiration would be to grow a la DMart?
No, so that's not the space that I'm in. I'm in a more experiential mass premium space.
In your category.
Yeah. And I think it's a category by category decision. You need to know what the customer wants and what adds value to the customer's life.
Sure.
At the end of the day, the customer doesn't wake up in the morning thinking that, I'm going to think about donut brands and chai brands and waffle brands today, right? They want to go about their day. They want to add happiness into their life. And if you're able to provide that happiness, they will be loyal to your brand.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
Absolutely. This brings me pretty much to the last question for the panel. how difficult or how easy is the standardization of the experience? A point touched upon earlier, in the conversation somewhere. So how easy or how difficult is it? I mean, is it easier to do it in the larger cities? Is it more easy to, have discipline in your teams in the smaller cities, etc.? I mean, anything that you would like to draw upon from your experience and share with the audience?
I believe we are competing with each other. Why am I saying is everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to expand, everybody wants front-end people. And front-end people, as I said in the morning also, it's a challenge because everybody wants good speaking guy, everybody wants good looking boy, handsome people. Then they will go to call center. They will not come to QSR to work on it.
Handsome.
But that's a fact. But we have to pay minimum wage. We have to pay incentive. And some other brand pays 500 rupees more, they go. So attrition is the main challenge in our front end on a day-to-day. And in the entire F&B industry, I believe front end attrition is very high because of the more opportunities which are available as compared to 10 years before. Today, everybody, because of our economy growing, because of the opportunities in the QSR industry, so the attrition is very high. So what do we do? So the model has to work not as per the front end, it has to work as per the customers, which is size, speeds, service. So to do that, the technology has to come into the place. Then only the labor cost can be reduced.
Sure. Anubhav, आप कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे?
मेरे को लगता है मैं पैनल में सबसे छोटा हूँ तो मुझे सुनना ही चाहिए, ज़्यादा सीखने को मिलेगा. बट टू आंसर द लास्ट क्वेश्चन जो आपने बोला था 3 tier cities के लिए, तो वैल्यू फॉर मनी तो हमको रखना ही पड़ेगा क्योंकि कंपटीशन इतना है तो इट कीप्स अस ऑन द टोज. अगर आपको प्रीमियम चार्ज करना है तो आप इतना बड़ा ब्रांड बन जाओ कि आपके आसपास कोई आ नहीं पाए. सो एक तो वो. सेकेंडली स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन की बात करें तो बिकॉज वी आर डीलिंग विद हाईली मतलब पेरिशेबल गुड्स, तो थोड़ा सा चैलेंजेस तो आता है. चैलेंजेस देयर, और चैलेंज नहीं होता तो सभी कर लेते. सो आई मीन वी हैव टू कीप innovating, renovating, and doing the product development and innovation on daily basis. So standardization जितना अच्छा करेंगे तो क्योंकि we deal in the chai and chai is अगर मैं layman term में आपको बोलूँ तो चाय is like cigarette. तो अगर आप एक ब्रांड पी रहे हो तो आपको दूसरा ब्रांड पीने का मन नहीं करेगा. तो आप अगर आपने यहाँ पे पिला दी तो अगले दिन दूसरी जगह पे जाके आप दूसरी चीज़ नहीं पिला सकते. So you have to keep the taste across, but it's not that easy क्योंकि milk is highly perishable और आप एक सिंगल जगह से आप हर जगह पे नहीं दे सकते हो, तो मिल्क अलग अलग रहता है. बट वी फोकस ऑन द फैट कि ये फैट होना चाहिए, एंड रेस्ट ऑफ द थिंग्स वी फाइनलाइज ए वेंडर, लोकल वेंडर, सो टेस्ट कंटिन्यूस करने में हेल्प करता है.
Any final thoughts, Tarak?
So for standardization, I think it's very simple that you have to train your people, simple as that. But as Mahesh said, that there is a lot of iteration. But I think if you have a guaranteed given structure to the staff of maybe a 6 months to a 1 year to a 3 year period, I think they stay back because they know that they will be reaching somewhere. It's very, very difficult for a 23, 24-year-old to even understand what will happen with him after 6 months. He wants a mobile phone every 6 months. As soon as iPhone comes comes with a new phone, they want to own it. So I think it's very difficult, but it is very easy to make them understand about their future, about the next 6 months, about the next 3 years. I think that could get standardization back. In terms of understanding the customer psyche in a metro city, I think it has overtaken, the experience has overtaken the pricing point and even the product now, I think.
Sure.
So, so people have access to internet today. They know what is happening. They know what your counterparts are doing. They know what you're on dependent on actually. So I think it is more like a physical thing that physical and brick and mortar stores will go together in the standardization of doing things together.
Sure. You want to say something?
In a space of burger, I believe the customer retention is the most important thing. And the customer comes back to us to have the same product that they had. And when we envision to have 2,000, 3,000 outlets, just like the McDonald's has 40, 50,000 stores across, standardization SOP are the root and the DNA culture that you need to inherit. And the standardization, so typically the stores that we do have, we do not have a kitchen. We have assembly points. And the product has to be so nonsense proof that assembling the right product will have the right outcome. So the human dependency or the changes or alterations of the product should minimally depend on the person who is preparing the product. Only if assembly is being wrong, the product gets wrong. And there are a lot of global companies who have been in India today in terms of automating the kitchen, or in terms of technology adoption, or in terms of the recipe management, back-end processes. So each and every raw material at our kitchen, at our stores are pre-cooked. It's an assembly point. So I believe, again, when we are talking about experience as a factor, the stores has to be uniform, the stores has to be updated. So standardization, SOP are something that we cannot compromise at all if you are looking at
I think that's
scale.
absolutely great, and you know what you say is absolutely right. But if you speak to some of the more, let's say, established businesses today, they will tell you that, you know, when there are competing businesses, product differentiation is not much. The differentiation comes from the level of service that you provide to the customer. So it's just the other way around. Product consistency तो आ जाएगी, वो तो आप पीछे से बना के भेज रहे हो, तो वो तो आ ही जाएगी.
I think those are extensions of the brand. So let's say there is a coffee day lounge, coffee day express, coffee day. So these are extensions, and that happens when you reach a certain number of a store and you create a brand identity and people recall. The recall value is very high.
Sure.
So let's say 90% of your consumers have tried the whole menu and they still want to come back to you. It is the time when you want to elevate your extensions.
Sure. I think that, gentlemen, anybody else has a point to share? I think that pretty much brings us to an end to this discussion. I'd like to open it to all of you. Should you have any question for any of the panelists, please feel free to ask. Yes, sir.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, and it was very interesting to hear all of your experiences. You build brands in food, which is really very personal experience. So I am Srinivas. I work with Centric Software, and we have technology solutions in food and beverage industry. So from one personal experience I want to quote before I ask my question, right? I heard a lot of keywords: product, customer retention, experience, standardization. Okay, all these resonate with what I do today from a technology perspective. Where I live for the past 20 years, there's a small 80 square foot store called Hegde Fast Food. Okay, I'm from Bangalore. I'm a typical South Indian. He makes idli, vada, upma, chutney. Saturday morning, if you want to pack 2 idlis, the waiting time is minimum 45 minutes, and nobody goes away from his store without taking their pack. There's no place to sit, nothing. 3 people handle it. And last 17 years, I think every second week I'm there at his store for 1 idli, 1 vada, and the taste is the same. I absolutely love it. Okay. Now with that context, right, with the way how you grow your business in terms of brand, how do you reach? Let's say, how can you take how can you give the same burger taste across 300 stores in India, where product is at the heart of everything, right? Experience, yes, experience matters in certain scenarios, right? Like in the example I gave, I don't mind about the experience because I know that there the product is the king, and that is what is actually pulling me. Now, in order to scale your business, right, how do you, or how are you using technology to maintain or manage product information? Because that's very key. How do you, and in a
So your question is for a specific individual, or
it's
anybody?
generally for everyone, because they're from, some of them have their own brands, some of them have service restaurants. I think they'll have different thoughts on that. I think it'll be interesting that how do you perceive using technology support for managing your product information, which is critical, right? Because from one store, and there are so many stakeholders to which the same product information has to be made available at different points in time, right? So what do you see, that are you already using something, or do you see something where that's going? I want to kind of hear from. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can
Dhiren,
take a small stab at it
Thank
in a
you.
very short way. So I think your answer lay in your introduction that you gave.
Yeah.
while it may be about the product, it may be about the service, it may be about other things or the technology, it really comes down to the customer experience. What is the experience you are going in for and what do you derive from that? All these are the components of the experience. And if they all come together for you, then you are loyal to the brand. If they don't come together for you, even once, you may not start, you'll turn disloyal.
They could also come together for you only in one outlet, like the outlet that you mentioned. Can the gentleman really scale up in 200 outlets, 150 outlets? I'm not quite sure. But if he can, then it's absolutely a great business model which all of us will aspire to ape in some ways. Any other question that anybody has? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would you just pass on the mic to him? Oh. Can you just hold the mic for him? So.
Is it on? Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, so it was very insightful to pick the brains of each and every one of you. So now my question is coming from the perspective of the capex point that was raised, right? And me being a turnkey contractor consultant turned a turnkey contractor aggregator and then a turnkey contractor ourselves. So the thing that we have faced is that, and I don't know that if you guys would be facing these issues, because most of the time this capex thing for a new store opening is handled by your project team, and there is a certain capex amount that you will affix as per the trend that you have seen. So what we have observed as a turnkey contractor in this industry is how do you manage the problem of kickbacks, because that is widely prevalent. And even if you guys might think that it's not operating, but in our consultancy phase, we have seen that problem, and that is basically adding to the capex cost eventually. And eventually, what we have seen is that in an effort to reduce the initial capex cost, because that is a cash flow that is, at point one day it is going out, what is happening is that the maintenance capex OPEX is increasing. Because we are seeing that a lot of stores are requiring a lot of maintenance OPEX. So how are you guys sitting at the top able to, view it? Is it a challenge? And what another problem we have also seen is that now brands are very conscious on the opportunity cost of the time, the rent that is being due. Because a lot of from our experience, 30 to 40% of the projects have time delay. So you have a sales loss, you have an opportunity cost of the rent. So how does everything come into the picture in deciding that one time, capex cost or approving of the project? And according to the cities also it changes. So what goes around in top management's mind when deciding on these things?
Sure. Raghav, do you want to take that?
I think very, very valid points, very, very valid concerns, and I think just the approach for us is trust but check, yaar, और तो कोई तरीका नहीं होता, and obviously like you rightly said, right, the getting the store made in the right time, being able to complete it within the fit out period. Of course, labor के साथ challenges होते हैं, with any kind of project fit out there are always challenges. So we try to get the best team together, try to ensure that our team is on the ground, actually there to execute, not just sitting in the office and just making calls कि काम चल रहा है सही से या नहीं चल रहा. I think that's all we can do.
I can only add one more point. Unfortunately, whatever you shared is reality. It does happen. All I can tell you is that, and I'm sure I'm speaking on behalf of everybody, that there is zero tolerance for any lack of integrity in most of our organizations. If we ever discover that there is a person who's actually taking up the project cost because he wants a personal benefit, there is zero tolerance for such a person. It's only a question of us getting to know. Many times we don't get to know, and we get to know much later. But when we do get to know, that's the last day that that person stays in the organization. That's the kind of control that we like to exercise. But unfortunately, there are still instances, which do happen. That's also reality, right? I think time's up. So so thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.